Meanwhile, no pun intended, I was jazzed up
Ah,
for this.
screw it. Pun all the way intended.
You were jazzed up.
Well, no, I
you
truly
my
no pun
bill.
intended. I used
know.
jazzed up.
I know.
That's a phrase.
Get it?
is.
for me.
Get it? You were jazzed up. I'll send you my bill.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Okay, so that pun was
Okay.
intended, people at
Okay.
home.
Yeah, he so intended he repeated it when we didn't hear it the first time.
Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent Big Ugly himself, Omari Ellis, Feo Grande on YouTube, and I'm back once again for some more movie talk, as usual, as we do it every week, every Tuesday. And of course, I'm joined, as usual, by some of my best friends in the world, especially one on this show, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
Hello,
What's up?
sir.
How you doing, buddy?
Good to be back. It's good to be here, ready to see another wonderful movie.
Yes. And of course, this time we're joined by a guest, much like before. You guys have seen him on the channel before. You've seen him on this show before, from the Whatever We Want podcast, as well as, you know, the rapper himself, the one and only Super
Jazz.
Is that
You can't go
rapper?
big. I'm supposed to go big on this show.
Okay.
You're supposed to say it normal, and then I do the
I
echo.
apologize.
Oh
Well,
yeah, because we
in that
don't always do
case,
videos together. So
I apologize.
Oh,
We've
that-
got Super Jazz.
Super Jazz.
you said it like news radio. Yeah, super.
Super Jazz.
Is that rapping with a W or no? Anyway, no, yeah, super jazz.
Super Jazz.
As nature. Is that what you're waiting for me to say? Is the second part of the thing?
I was gonna do a
wanted to
bit.
say
I was gonna do a
Super
bit where every time it was said,
SJ, JT, whatever you want, we'll have you in the like. What's going on, guys? Y'all know how much I love hanging with my friends and talking shit, and y'all know how much I love talking about movies, so I'm glad to be back and let's get it cracking.
All right, yes, indeed. And of course, this is This Guy Hasn't Seen, where we trade movies back and forth. We've been doing it for quite some time now, getting into the hang of things. And this week we had a movie that wasn't suggested by Bill or myself, but instead suggested by Super Jazz. And Super Jazz, what movie would that be?
Who suggested it? No, I'm joking. It's Lady Bird. Yep.
Lady Bird, 2002 movie written and directed by Greta Gerwig, stars Saoirse Ronan, Saoirse, thank you, and Laurie Metcalf, as well as a bunch of wonderful actors that I'm sure we'll get into in the course of this episode. Jazz, why this movie? How did you first see it, and why decide to send it to us? Peel behind the curtain. When we decided to set this whole thing up the very first time, and we started the message chat, and I sent out all right, so this might be a little challenging to get a movie that both of us haven't seen. And then you reply, wanted. And then Omari and I say, haven't seen it. So boom, first suggestion. We got our first episode. You may see that. You can see that in the Feo Grande back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
2 moments later, you send out a reply. Any of y'all seen Lady Bird? Neither of us have seen it. So why was that the second movie that came to mind? And you nailed it. And then why bring it to us?
So it's funny, first off, because like you said, the fact that, you know, somehow between two like, you know, actors and all of us, you know, being not like old, but like, you know, not super duper young. So, you know, we've been around enough where we could have seen some movies between two actors. People could have seen some stuff. And my first two, I ended up coming up with that, which is hilarious. And then two very different vibes, but both movies I very much enjoy. I ended up seeing this movie. It came out in 2017, and in 2017, that would put me at, I believe, 26 years old. And one of my big hobbies ever since back in 2010, 2011, I worked at a movie theater. One of my big hobbies, because we could see movies for free, whether we were working or not, as long as it wasn't like opening night, opening weekend, was I love seeing movies in the theater and trying to see the newest movie. So
anytime you were off shift, you could go to the theater for free. And that was like an established rule. That wasn't like going up to a coworker who's working the ticket booth and being like,
being sneaky. No, it was like, as long as it wasn't opening night or opening weekend, they were like, yeah, come on, whatever.
Is this the same?
That's an amazing perk that I had no idea came with working at a movie theater.
I don't know
my God.
do it, but some do it, yes.
Is it the same movie theater you were working at in like 2010 or 2011?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I got to take advantage of that as well.
I
probably shouldn't have been able to, but
I got a little bit of trouble letting friends.
I could take advantage of that as well.
But that was young and dumb.
See, I've gotten taken advantage of a friend who works at the movie theater and is the guy checking tickets.
Yeah,
I've gotten that advantage before, but that's always a scary proposition.
Yeah,
and you can never really enjoy the movie because you think you're going to get like snatched from the theater at any moment.
I mean, the one thing you don't want to do, because unless the people in the theater just like working there just don't care, the one thing you don't want to do is don't go in the theater where it's like less than 4 people or something, because it does keep count of who's in there. So if for whatever reason somebody's like, I'm going to clean, I'm going to clean Doctor Strange early because there's nobody in there for real today. How is there one guy in this theater? Then you're going to get found out. But no, so ever since I worked in there around like 2010-ish, like I said, I could see movies for free. So one of my like hobbies became to see like, what's the latest movie? I want to see the latest movie in the theater. Like that was my thing, was like, I go to the movie theater, I see it, I didn't have to pay. So then fast forward like a few years later, it started becoming like, I got in this habit of trying to see the latest movie, even though now I don't work at the theater anymore. So now I gotta pay to do it. So it's like, damn, I can't really like, feed my hobby. But then thankfully, you get better paying jobs here and there. You get money, you don't give a fuck, whatever. So fast forward to 2017, I got to the point where I was like, what I'm gonna try to do this year is, because I think it had like 2 more than normal Best Picture nominations. So I was like, I think normally they do like 6 or 7, and this year they had 9. So I was like, I'm going to try to see every Best Picture nomination in the theater before the Oscars goes up. And I got it pulled up right here. They had The Shape of Water, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Get Out, The Post, Call Me By Your Name, and Lady Bird. And to this day, I've seen all but Darkest Hour. But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna try to see every single one. And what's the name? Lady Bird happened to be one of them. And I remember I went to go see it. And even before I went to into the theater to go ahead and like see it, the guy who was like taking the ticket, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I think you're gonna enjoy this movie, man. You're about to see one of, my favorite movies this year, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. I was like, I'll see what you guys say. And then I saw it and I was like, he wasn't lying. That we'll get into it, but I think that there's like a serious heart and magic to this movie. And I'll be curious to see what y'all got to say about it. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I'll go ahead and run into why I hadn't gotten into this. So normally around Oscar season, just like you said, I will usually scan the predicted nominees list around early January and start building my list of what I want to make sure I have seen. In 2017, 2018, this was on that list,
Yeah.
but my wife ended up watching it before me,
No.
thinking that it was one that I was not on my list.
Uh-huh.
And so it just never, I never got the opportunity to see it in that moment during that Oscar season. And from that point forward, it just kind of fell off. But this is a movie right in my wheelhouse. This is a movie that I planned to have seen, didn't see, and then it just kind of fell by. Like, I never thought Lady Bird when wondering about what movie I was going to watch some random Saturday afternoon or something like that. Omari?
Yeah, so I've often stated that
The way he starts, I know where you're going.
With, society where I don't really look at the film enthusiast type of things. I'm the movies.
You don't have the moment that Jazz and I just described of Oscar season.
In fact, I'm
wanting to make sure you see the best pictures.
In fact, I'm kind of the opposite.
Avoid those.
Oh, I'm gonna stay away from them.
Well, generally, Oscar-winning movie. I've stated before, I don't like being sad when I go to the movies, and generally, Best Picture nominators are some super serious, super sad. Oh yes, this is what makes you feel type of shit, and so I don't. That generally is not necessarily a deal breaker for me for a movie. Hearing that it won an Oscar, I mean, that's an accomplishment. Clearly, there's quality there, but scanning the Oscar movie list to be like, what am I watching this time, is not exactly a pastime for me.
My first time doing it was 2017 doing that, but yeah, go ahead.
Also, I never heard of this movie. Like,
that's fair.
At all. Oscar or otherwise, I had not. When brought up Lady Bird the past a couple days ago, talking with Bill, and like, so what is this movie? He's like, it's an Oscar winning. Because all I think. No, I said, what is this? Because all I think when I hear Lady Bird is Hank Hill's dog.
Right. And so as far as what we were expecting, we can go ahead and recreate the behind the scenes of last week's episode
here,
which would be
was expecting.
So what is this movie?
It's a Oscar bait movie from writer director Greta Gerwig. It's like a coming of age story of a young girl.
Yes.
And it's chosen by Jazz.
I'll give it a shot. Not someone that is chosen by Jazz, but the Oscar bait. I'm like, this is not my wheelhouse at all. I'm giving it a shot for the show because obviously it could still be really good, but it's not necessarily something in my wheelhouse. And I was like, we'll see.
I added the it was chosen by Jazz because I thought in that moment you were making those faces because this was like the farthest from left field that you could have ever anticipated Jazz choosing, like a coming of age teen drama, female.
Well, because I know
starring a white girl,
yeah, a lot of that's true, but I could also see Jazz picking it because of that Oscar bait thing at the top. And because you guys enjoy more of the fancy films than I do. So I'm like, okay, but when we both agreed that, well, Oscar bait, that just sounds like
I like fancy films.
And so hearing that, I was just like, I did think that's weird, and that is out of left field, especially as a suggestion of like, no, I don't watch any of these. Like, I wish we were still like recording, because the look on my face, I knew
there was no way you could recreate it.
Yeah, I knew that it had to have been good, because I'm just like, I don't know, man. It was about the most wary I had been going into a movie about for this, because I'm like, I wanted at least part of that description to be.
Meanwhile, no pun intended, I was jazzed up for this.
Screw it, pun all the way intended.
You were jazzed up.
I truly no pun intended. I used jazzed up.
I know.
That's a phrase.
Get it?
for me.
Get it? You were jazzed up. I'll send you my bill.
Oh my god. Okay, so that pun was intended, people at home.
Yeah, he so intended he repeated it when we didn't hear it the first time.
I was making sure. I was like, no, the Zoom delay is not gonna fuck this pun up.
But yeah, so I was wary, but I'm like, you know what? I thought it had won some Oscars, so I'm like, well, you know what? It's
Nominated for a bunch, didn't get any wins.
Gotcha.
Which is surprising because my memory was that Laurie Metcalf had won. My memory was that she was like sweeping that year.
It didn't win because I know. Yeah, it was nominated for Best Director. It was nominated for Best Picture. I think it was nominated
Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actress for Mom.
Yeah,
from Roseanne.
But nobody won one.
Not a single win.
Familiar.
Really
She was the sister in Roseanne. Yeah.
Really not much wins across the board that year. The Alliance of Women Film Journalists gave them a bunch of awards, but like they were nominated in the BAFTAs and in the Golden Globes and in the Screen Actor Guilds, but no real taking home of trophies.
And then and Greta Gerwig got nominated twice then because she wrote and directed, so they got screenplay and director. She got nominated twice in different categories.
I believe it's the very next year she remakes Little Women and gets a ton of nominations all over again.
And Saoirse Ronan was in that. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I'm like, well, it's been nominated at least for a lot of Oscars. Clearly, there's quality here. So, while wary because it's not my usual wheelhouse, that's also the point of this show. It's things I haven't seen. Or we haven't seen as it keeps going. So, all right, let's go. You, Bill, what were you expecting? I guess.
Yeah, this.
I was expecting pretty on what I got. Like I said, I thought the memory of this movie was everybody going fucking nuts about Laurie Metcalf's performance. My memory was that she was sweeping the awards that year, but as we just talked about, they didn't really take home anything. But before I started the movie, I was planning to see an outstanding performance from her and overall a very good, as I described to you, kind of coming of age teen drama.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Once it got going, the first 20 minutes, it's really hard to like our main character.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
She has ego problems with very little where the audience is being told there's very little justification for that ego at this point in her life. She's rude to her mother. She's rude to her best friend. She uses her father. It's a tough first 20 minutes for me. And our main character.
I put, when I was doing that for my initial reaction, I'm like, so this random ass opening argument makes me continue to not want to have kids.
Just in general, this movie is like,
and then the movie continued to say that, but the opening, to piggyback off of your point about the opening being like kind of hard to like the main character, I'm like, what the fuck did
piggyback off the piggyback, because I know we're going to get into like more, but one thing I think that this movie does so well, which I think a lot of movies should do first off, is in some cases it does a lot of show not tell, which I think in movies you can show not tell, and in plays sometimes you have to tell and not show. And if you start off, they're in the hotel, they're getting ready to leave, they start doing this or whatever, you're like, oh, okay, they were on some long trip. Okay, then one thing I think that this movie does really well too is the dynamic between Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan. It really captures this like, even though that they butt heads, there's still this mother-daughter dynamic because it goes from like sweet shit. They just got through listening to Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Moment, Mom says one thing, and then, and I'm like, I mean, okay, now she starts off a little more bratty than normal, maybe, but that's just real shit. Whether it's mom and daughter, whether it's me and my brother, as Omari knows, go back and forth about dumb shit a lot. Then we'll sit right back up and be like, "So, man, how's your job going? Everything cool?" Like, because when you have family, sometimes you're gonna like, "Fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you." Hey, we go get some McDonald's. So I think that it does do a good job of. Like I said, she might have been a little more bratty than like. At times, but that's one thing I think it captures is that mother-daughter thing because it just snaps and it's like
I'll agree that it's realistic. Hence me phrasing the note the way I did. I'll agree that that's realistic because I felt the realistic nature of it. It's like, damn, this so annoying.
This movie is very well written and very well directed, but I feel like what separates it from another coming-of-age teen movie is the character that is the mother and her full-rounded human person. So often that character in this movie is just like a service for the plot.
Background,
background, come in, give some exposition, be like, no, you can't do that. And then the kid gets to do the opposite or whatever, you know. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, she's like, she is a character dealing with so much different levels of like shame and still being a very good mother as much as she like, I don't know, I feel like it depicts, this movie depicts greater than anything I've ever seen, that thing that we all discover when we get into like our, you know, so I'm sure some people discover it at much different times in their 20s, maybe even as late as their 30s, but or maybe it's not even until they're having kids, I'm not sure. But when you realize that like your parents are just human beings and like and like those like we only see the ladybird side of her walking in and yelling at her about her clothes.
Yeah.
But us as kids don't see mom up at 3 a.m. re-sewing a new prom dress.
Yeah.
Even though she's got to work in the morning, like, you know, and our parents aren't going to be perfect human beings. They are going to have they're going to have shame issues about not being able to provide a well-financed life for their children. And that's, and maybe that shame will leak on to problems on how they raise their children, but because, they're people and they're not like, I feel like this movie is from the beginning and throughout all of it is depicting that better than I've ever seen any movie depict.
That's one of the main reasons why I like it. Like Laurie Metcalf has that one line where she's like, "Did your mom ever do blah 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 blah?" And then she just kind of looks for half a second right before she closed the door. She's like, "My mother was an abusive drunk," and just close the door. And it's like, holy shit, because it makes you think like, maybe there's some like carryover from her childhood and she's trying not to be so much overbearing of like how her mom probably was, but she's definitely still trying to be a stern mom. And it's like, damn, you know, because, you know, you have some people like, you know, I believe there was nothing like that, you know, previously with, you know, my grandparents on either side. But you have some people who are like, yeah, my parents were, you know, not around, or my parents were this, my parents were that. So I'm trying not to be that to you. And then, but then you still, again, like none of us have children, but you hear from people who do, where it's like, no matter how much you do your best you still have to be the parent.
Yeah.
And at times, your kids are just not gonna like everything that you do, and that's just how it is. And it's just like shit. And then the dynamic too, where you got somebody like a Lady Bird, who, like Tracy Letts, who wrote August Osage County, which I believe Laurie Metcalf originated one of the characters in his play. But anyway, that's another one of my
favorites. Yeah, she's like a big she's an original Steppenwolf.
Yeah,
and does mostly theater. Like everybody obviously knows her from Roseanne.
Yeah,
but like she is like one of in New York acting circles
she's amazing.
Right? Yeah, she's apparently a legend.
Yeah,
but Tracy Letts says in one of the parts where he was like, "You and your mother just have very big personalities," and I'm like, that's underplaying it. Shit.
I liked the dad character early on. I liked the dad character, and I was like, that's it. But because of the way the movie was going and early on, I was just like, Dad seems really chill compared to everybody else.
Yeah,
because he's just like, you do this, all right, you want to go, you want to drop off at school, blah blah blah. I'm like, Dad seems chill. He's probably gonna die. The daughter and him get along way too well.
Oh, shit.
Honestly, I was waiting for because I don't know if any of you have seen a lot of any of the films that Greta Gerwig has acted in.
I heard her name, but I've never seen her.
She's kind of she was kind of like an indie film darling. Like she was always in those weird indie films. For like the early 2000s era, but like the kind of movies that I recall her starring in would have something traumatic in the third act that I kept waiting for. Like in the back of my head, I was really hoping it wasn't going to happen, but something like her best Lady Bird's best friend, played by Beanie Feldstein, sister to Jonah Hill.
Yeah, but she looks like
she clearly we were clearly seeing this like really big crush on the teacher. The kind of movie that Greta Gerwig would star in, there's a high likelihood that something terrible happens involving that relationship.
Yeah.
In like the third act. And that's the reason why Lady Bird would have had to come back and like have that emotional reuniting moment.
Yeah.
I was really afraid that that's what was about ready to be said.
Huge creeper
when they were
from the teacher.
When they were sitting there crying.
I'm glad that like two of the things that y'all just said didn't necessarily happen, because if it did happen, it would still be a good movie. Like
but it didn't.
It was like exactly. If it was like, oh shit, Dad died, or if it was like, I slept with Mr. Blah 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 last night. There was like a big blowout from it. But the thing is, like you said, one, it didn't need it, and two, we've seen enough movies with that we can see that in other movies. Like you said, we
didn't need a dad death. Yeah. We didn't need the traumatic best friend gets raped.
And I agree that we didn't need that. But I'm watching this through the lens of someone who doesn't necessarily watch a lot of Oscar bait movies. Watching
an Oscar bait movie would have
I was expecting
I was agreeing with you, Omari, that I was that's what I was also waiting. I was agreeing with you. I was waiting for that moment to keep happening. Like, all right, the dad, like just like you said, every time that dad comes in. Yeah. And it's like depressed, like the kind of movie that Greta Gerwig used to star in.
Gotcha.
Dad is going to hang himself in the third act.
Gotcha. We're agreeing with you. It seemed like all signs were pointing to that shit. It's just I'm glad that they didn't do that, because I think it makes it more relatable in a way. Yeah, because it's like, oh shit, oh no, so-and-so's having a baby by Mr. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's why I thought
they didn't do that shit.
Like Bill said, I thought that's why she was crying on the couch. When she came for the prom, like, oh no, he did it. He fucking did it.
Fucking Timothy Chalamet's character. Oh my god! Within a 15-second span, I go from loving him, hating him, and loving him. Not the character, Timothy Chalamet.
Which one was he?
He's the hair.
She lost her virginity too.
Okay, the Kyle.
He's also in Dune, and in the same year, Call Me by Your this was the Timothy Chalamet year.
Gotcha.
Because Call Me by Your Name and this movie were both.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
After the first relationship didn't end well, I saw Kyle or Timothy Chalamet. I saw the dude, and I'm like, and the fact that they were gonna have, I'm like, all right, so Kyle's gonna be a douchebag too. Like that's just what I'm like. I see where this is going. Like they're all gonna be douchebags using her and stuff. At the same time, like you said, it's the stereotypical like cool dude. I don't care about nothing, So you go from hating to hating him again or whatever. So yeah, I agree.
But I mean, it captures that like wanting to be liked though, because like she walks up to the dude and she's smoking cloves that she got from Shelly or whatever. Like she like saw her doing it, so now she's doing it. First thing he says, "I hate that shit." It's like, what's wrong? This and that. Why would you hang out with somebody if the first thing that they do is just start critiquing your whole fucking life and everything? Yeah. You want to be liked, and he's the fucking cool like hot kid or whatever. So it's like,
yeah, he's in a band.
He's in a band.
Yeah.
He's smoking cigarettes and reading poetry outside of her coffee shop.
I at one point, because I kept seeing it with the book, I literally just typed, "What is this nigga reading?" Can we answer the question? I don't know if she asked him what's in this book, but he just keeps reading it. And I'm like,
I don't know if he is. He may just be staring at it. Blankly,
he does seem like the kind of dude that would do that. So yeah,
I'm laughing because I never thought I seen this movie. Like this might be 5, 6, maybe. I never thought, what the fuck is he? I never thought that. That's fucking hilarious. It's like another question is like, okay, I mean, I guess maybe the either the school provides the uniforms or the kids have to buy their uniforms, but like. Where's old girl? Was her name Jenna? I think. Where is she buying short skirts from? But nobody else had one. Yeah. Like if you want questions like that, like somehow she found a short one and got it through the door with that. Like what the fuck? Yeah.
Well, it was also implied, I think, that she was richer than the other kids.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't implied. It was fucking told. Like,
yeah. Did anybody else have some like cringy flashbacks during all of the theater scenes? Were we that bad?
Greta Gerwig said that this is one thing I never had was I never had like random rubber sponge looking shit or whatever the fuck to look like alcohol. Like, it was always just Pepsi or Pepsi or tea or some shit.
Yeah, it was always tea.
She said that she put that in there because she remembered being in school and like they had the like fake alcohol that didn't move. So she purposely put that in there, yeah. I did not act in school. A lot of people ask me like, did you act in school? I was like, no, because my school was so crappy we didn't have a drama department. But I acted like fresh out. So was I that bad when I first started, whether in school or not? Yeah. Yes, I probably was.
Yeah, I had some cringy.
Yeah, but if you were going out, if you were in productions outside of school, then you were at least with like people who had already done theater and knew that they wanted to do theater instead of a group of teens, and 25% of them are kind of getting forced into this process, and nobody's playing age appropriate parts or anything like that.
I had cringy like flashbacks throughout the whole fucking movie. Just high school and stuff, and that's another thing where I'm like, this is gonna be one of those.
My wife, as a female watching this movie, in the daughter-mother relationships and the girl-to-girl friend relationships at school was. I could see out of my periphery constantly like putting her head in her hands, just like every time Lady Bird would just be a fucking snotty bitch to her mom. I'm just like, oh god.
We're either like a black or male, but no, she's like white.
No, yeah, she's right there. I believe
like she is.
We didn't talk about it again last night, but I believe I have the memory from her first time watching this when she watched it without me, her describing it as the best depiction of a mother-daughter relationship she has ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, now, obviously, I didn't talk back to my mom to the extent that motherfucking Ladybird did. but no, a lot of, that's why I said a lot of that, like the dynamic, especially as you start getting older, a lot of that dynamic, it feels realistic, man, to an extent where you, like I said, I didn't talk back to my mom bad like that, but you're like, you know, do you even understand where I'm coming from? You don't get me type of shit.
Yeah.
And then your parents are like you said, your parents are just trying to be people, do the best they can.
Yeah.
And you butt heads about whatever the fuck. And it's just like, yeah, so.
Yeah, man. Not to
just kid thing, yeah.
If you remove the genders to it, there were so many points in this moment where like this is like this and that unfortunately was mine and my mother's relationship, was me being a kid who talked back to her and her being a person who was constantly nothing but passive aggressive. It was many identical moments to this movie,
from an outside,
because that's just how we communicated. The moment in the moment in the dressing room trying out prom dresses, I have had that exact conversation with my mother of like, if you weren't my mother and I wasn't your son, would we like each other? And then did you notice when she said, "Do you like me?" She said, "Well, of course I love you." Yeah. You like me. And she never answered. She never answered like. Literally, I think I had that identical conversation with my mother. It took us. And it took us to get through that period. Like it takes until I get to my 20s and I realize that you have to understand your parents.
Yeah. From an outside observer, I can say that I agree. Like I see the similarities that you see between those. Like I'm just backing up your point. Like I can see that because knowing you around that time. As an outside preserver, I'm like, they argue a lot. But obviously, you guys still loved each other, mother, son. I would never question that. Being, a son to a mother as well. Like, who is it, huh? Sorry.
Who is it, a son to a mother?
But no, like, I wasn't as argumentative with my mother. However, I did have a sister where she and my mom would like always butt heads, and they were very similar in other ways as well. They just practically the same anyway, so I could see them butting heads. But obviously, like you said, at the end of the day, the love was still there, and once adulthood came.
Yeah, it's a weird, and I don't. I was there. Yeah, I don't know what allows it to get to that point where you don't ever really talk to each other. Yeah. But that's part of the problem why it never heals. And you kind of in this movie describes it. You finally need that space and to be living out on your own to kind of realize the struggles, and then at the same time it is a two-way street, like very similar to this movie. There's a lot of shame that our parent has to burden by not being able to provide us the perfect life. Yeah, because they speak a lot on like them not having money but doing the right
can. So she's trying, but she can't. Like at one point, I forget exactly what she says, but she says something, and Laurie Metcalf is like, "Well, that's for rich people." And last time I checked, we're not rich people. So yeah.
Yeah, particularly I have to imagine in a town like that, where I know that like Florissant is kind of we're all poor. It's just different level. Like you could be really poor or not that poor. And like the rich person at school is the person whose parent happens to own their own business. And it's not a humongously successful business or anything. It's just like,
they got
their parent doesn't have a boss.
Cost of living in California is very different than St. Louis.
But I would imagine there's definitely I know there's towns where it's like, there's the rich half, and then there's the servants of that rich half, basically, and it's gotta weigh even heavier then when you see, like, if my mom had to deal with kids my age running around in Benzes, and like if we were out in Creve Coeur or Kirkwood where I work, and I can see like little Ladue seniors running around in Denali's. Like what?
Yeah, that would have been something. Cause I agree. But I was gonna say something and didn't. I forgot. But yeah, the fact that they literally had a wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah,
and like even
oh
the
my
character
God,
in
when
the show,
Danny,
like, yeah.
And then Danny did not know anything about subtlety or shut your fucking mouth at all.
He had terrible social skills
because he's on the rich side.
Yeah.
The two things he says. She told me she lived on the wrong side of the tracks, but I thought she was joking. And then the other time later in the movie, it's like, so did you hear about the waiting list? It's like, if you don't shut your dumb ass up.
Read the room.
Both of those were like, if you don't shut the fuck up.
Meanwhile, he's telling her to keep his secret.
I was very curious when we got through about 3/4 of this movie. I was starting to get very curious and felt like I was only getting reaffirmed that this may be a very autobiographical movie for Greta.
It slightly was.
She's born and raised in Sacramento, and she said this is quite similar. The character of her mother is very similar, and her mother was also a psychiatric nurse, and but the main character is complete fabrication. She describes herself as extremely straight-laced in high school, and like a good student, a good daughter, but like, didn't talk back to her mom.
I believe that Greta wasn't necessarily like this. Maybe this was how Greta, probably not to the fullest extent, but maybe it's probably how she wished that she was, because one thing that you can say about Lady Bird is like, she's not the popular girl or doesn't always have her head on straight or whatever, but she is very brash and very independent. So maybe Greta wished that she had a little bit of that. Because if you look at Greta Gerwig when she's doing acceptance speeches, when she's in interviews, she is very just like chill, just like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. All right, blah, 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 do it. Okay, well, I guess. So if she was like Lady Bird, like if you were going to say, yeah, I would have been like, well, she's a huge flip from that now. But so, yeah, maybe it was a little bit of like, that wasn't me, but I wish I had a little bit of that boldness, that confidence. Because Lady Bird like I said, she didn't always direct it the right way, but she had a lot of confidence to be like, I'm going to talk to so-and-so. I'm going to approach blah, blah, blah. I don't understand this, but I'm going to go figure it out, So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Omari, do you have any other standout moments?
The play director that was a football coach.
That's
great. You're here. His wife dancing.
I'm going to put the blocking up here, and then you can copy that blocking into your playbooks.
and then he's just talking in there like,
And then he like tried to calm down for a minute. You're not there. You wait. So. And then bam! You're out of my heart.
The white lines are moving. The white lines are us dancing.
So I did love that. I loved his approach to the play directing. Her jumping out the car at the beginning of the movie.
Now that is some shit where that never fucking happened. But I talked to somebody around the time this movie came out. It was an older guy, and he said he knew like a friend or two or whatever, or like maybe not two, but he said he knew of people who had like done some shit like that. Like
Maybe
while
not-
they were in the argument saying "fuck it," like what?
I know an individual. I believe I referenced him on Whatever We Want as Jeffrey, who I believe at one point
Same,
in
Whatever
a
We
car. So the I don't know what that was.
What the fuck was that?
Anyway, Jeffrey.
Do you smell
One day,
toast?
literally just in the back of the car, like while people are driving, it's just, well, I must be going now. And opened the door and rolled. Like, I think he got a text or something, and he just opened the door and rolled out the car, and everyone's like, what the fuck? He ended up being fine, but it's like, what the hell, Jeff? So, I don't get it. I couldn't roll out of a car willingly unless, you know, my life was on the line or some shit. And even then, but huh?
Very and like I said, it definitely shows like the flip with their relationship, because they're arguing. She does that first thing mom does, ah! Which is like natural, because like what the fuck
Which goes into that whole not wanting not being able to like the main character at the beginning, because it's like, okay, really, you're just gonna jump out the fucking car on the highway?
Also, being an adult, couple $100.
Yeah.
Even if we have insurance, couple $100, motherfucker.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right. If you're a worker,
That shit was in a cast for the rest of the movie.
yeah, it got cut off like what 50 minutes in, some shit.
Yeah.
It was a good chunk of the movie where she was just, you're right, good point. That's funny.
Just the fucking pep rally. Well, not pep rally, the anti-abortion rally.
The abortion rally.
And
Yeah.
then she was
He says
talking,
some
and she
fucked up
said
shit.
that line where she's like, well, if your mom would have had that abortion, we
You know,
wouldn't be here today. And I'm
If
like,
she hadn't, that's a vicious burn. And
Damn.
I can't not give her props for being a vicious burn. But if she hadn't have said that, she would be making she would still be on the line of just having an intellectual conversation at her school.
yeah.
But then she pulls out
Yeah.
that fucking burn on that poor woman.
Yeah, like,
Because to your point, Bill, it's true when she was just like, well, maybe I don't agree because this. And at first it was like, well, you didn't necessarily need to say anything, but her points weren't bad.
exactly.
Right. I mean,
Then
she gives that
turned into a
burn.
fucking asshole.
She gives that burn because like, you know, she references her a photo of her vagina while on her period in a room filled with women,
All women,
Yeah.
females,
with
right?
with like high school girls and women.
Yeah.
And that should not be something that is gone. And so maybe in that moment mentally, she already is like, all right, well, fuck this. This bitch ain't gonna let me have an actual conversation.
Yeah.
And just immediately goes to burning her house down.
That shit was fucked up. So I was like, damn, girl, wait a minute.
Yeah, like,
Oh, shit.
teenagers, man. But yeah, any more standouts for you, Bill, that we haven't covered?
I really like Lois Smith. I'm looking at the IMDb right now. She is she's the nun who's very pro Lady Bird.
Yeah.
I like her a lot in this. She has those two scenes in her office with Lady Bird, and both of those are really good.
She seems like a cool grandma type.
She was, yeah, but she was like, I'm not gonna punish you. It was funny, and then she said, but to be serious, I've been married to Jesus longer than just that.
It's been like 40 years.
I wasn't just.
And then I really like the best friend Beanie Feldstein. I like what she was doing. She got the opportunity because I had already seen Booksmart, which is basically the like ridiculous comedy version of this. Well, not even ridiculous, just like a little bit more comedic. It's very similar roles where she's the best friend of the main character, high school coming of age, senior year thing. And I feel like they were very close in timing. But this is just a slightly more serious version on it, and it's really good.
I heard that was like a female Superbad. Like they basically kind of, like not exactly, but they kind of took Superbad and then revamped it for like the 2020s, and then had females play the roles.
I feel like that was another one around this time.
Right.
Around that time, but that I think Booksmart was a little bit more serious, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
All right. So, guys, anyway. Something that I remembered from the captions of the movie because I was watching it on Amazon Prime or whatever. So I have a question for you real quick. Bone Thugs and Harmony. You guys remember them? What would you what genre would you classify Bone Thugs and Harmony as?
Rap.
Yeah, rap. I would also do rap. As Crossroads is playing at the dance, the caption said contemporary R&B music playing. And I was just like,
I mean,
that song kind of, that's about the closest argument you could ever make for Bones and Thugs and Harmony being in that, but I wouldn't say that. I'm like, lol, they call it contemporary R&B music.
Crossroads would be the closest to R&B.
That's what I'm saying. That's the closest argument you would have is that song. However, and then they're just like dancing like real slow to fucking See You at the Crossroads, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe this is what they did in the white Christian schools back then. Slow dance to Crossroads.
Were you finished with your moments, Bill? I was curious what else you had, if you had anything else.
Oh, I got lost in scrolling to try and figure out what that movie was.
Gotcha.
Oh shit!
My apologies.
Oh, gravy.
No, yeah. I mean, we covered a lot of them in just kind of our general discussion of the movie. I really enjoyed this film. I thought that the performances from Saoirse and from Laurie Metcalf were incredible. I really enjoyed where they took the ending. Like we talked about through a good chunk of the movie, I was afraid of Dad's death. I was afraid of something traumatic happening to the best friend. And none of that happened. It kind of just ended up being like, you know, what a lot of people's first times end up being, which is extremely underwhelming. And that's kind of the traumatic moment of the third act. Overall, I was extremely, extremely happy with this movie. This may be one of the best movies we've watched so far.
And then dude straight up lied, said he was a virgin, and then when they finally had sex, he was like, "I never said that."
Honestly, I was in his camp for as the scene was progressing because I didn't remember him saying that. So when she crawls back onto bed and was like, "We just deflowered each other," I was like, "No, you didn't. Has he ever told you that he's a virgin?"
Because when they were
Jen,
like all over
Jen was like, "Yes, he did." I was like, "Oh, I missed that."
He was like, "I'm a virgin." He said, "Me too."
No, she said, "I haven't had sex." He said, "Me neither."
That's yeah. What were you gonna say, Mark?
When you talk about being scared of something traumatic happening or tragic happening to the dad or to the friend, I was like gonna say something tragic happening to the main character. Like, because I got the douchebag vibes from Kyle, I'm thinking, you know, maybe bad stuff in that regard
Right.
as well. Or if not, who knows, the boyfriend after Kyle or the dude in New York when she's out on her own that's like talking to her at the party and stuff.
Okay, I got moments I wanted to touch on real quick before we move. Okay, so moments that stand out for me. I feel like there was like one or two that I'm gonna like I'm missing because I didn't write it down, so I'm forgetting. But the part where Danny they finally confront each other at the coffee shop, and they're just talking about whatever before they finally get to the obvious elephant in the room. And then she just yells, "You're gay!" And he's like, "I know, but look." And he just breaks down crying. And then she's like, "I won't tell." And they just become friends. And I'm like, damn, that is sad as fuck. Like, because clearly he lied to her, and clearly they were in this relationship, and it was all good, and this and that. And then she obviously felt a way about it because she was into him.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You know what? This is bigger than that. I won't."
Yeah, I was really hoping she would make that turn. As he approached and she was mean mugging him, I verbally said out loud to the room and Jen of like, "Come on, Ladybird, it's 2002. This dude is closeted. It has to be extremely hard for him. Do not be rough on this man."
And that's what I mean. Like,
and she was, and it was amazing.
It's understandable at first for her to be like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Because, you know, she was like, "I liked you, this and that, you lied."
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
No, yeah.
She realizes, oh, this is bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm like, so that was powerful.
I think I said, you want to go to a liberal college. Do not be rough on this man.
That's funny. I until he started like breaking down and crying, I was like, well, he fucking lied to her about whatever, you know, it sucks, but you know, the way, you know, I could understand her being mad and stuff, because she kind of like brought up like them not doing more, you know, typical teenage, you know, love things and stuff. She's like, "You know, you can touch my boobs, right?" And he's like,
"I respect you too much."
Okay, right.
Yeah, I mean, his version of this movie, we could, I mean, for all we know, as an audience, you know, that moment in the bathroom that she catches could be the moment that he's finding out himself.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very, like, you know, the relationship itself that he is going through with our main character could be the thing that is making him realize this. So,
fair enough.
I mean, it may not be lying for a good portion of his relationship with her.
Well, I was gonna say,
that's an interesting way to look at it.
Real quick too, based on going off what you said for a hot second, when you say his version of this movie, what's so funny is all of these characters are so three-dimensional. You could probably take all of like some of the like main or secondary characters and do a whole
every character is three-dimensional.
Or you can
every
do a
character
whole Ladybird for each of these and follow them for the same amount of time. Even Shelley, who played most of the background, like her character would be
one of my few complaints, if I have any, is that we got a good amount of fleshing out of the original theater director into a three-dimensional person, and kind of lost track of him after that scene of him talking to mom at the psychiatric clinic. Like, okay, we know he's dealing with some severe depression issues, and then it's just, but I mean, and I'm happy that, like you said, like even the most minor of character that has 3 scenes in the movie has a full, well-rounded. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Not a scene, but a line that always stuck out to me, because I feel like everybody kind of feels this way, or at least I know I did for a minute, is when they're arguing in the car And she says, I want to go where culture is. And I'm like, I feel like everybody has this like big grandiose idea, especially when they're younger, of like, where I am is holding me back and I've got to go where it's this big blah, 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 blah. So she's like, I want to go where culture is. And you like,
she called Sacramento the Midwest of California.
Yeah, every time I hear that, I'm like,
Exactly. Thank you. Like, fuck you, bitch. Midwest was awesome.
It's a double burn to us.
Yeah, right. But so I agree. Like, I can see that because I know people from all over that are just like, man, I need to get out of this state. Life is out
wherever
there.
you are, right?
Yeah.
People feel that way. Scene that stands out is when. So she says early on, Miguel, Shelley, you're never going to get a job with all that shit in your face. Okay, so then we fast forward to the dad is going to get a job, but they turn him down because he's a little too old. He doesn't know how to do it. He's like, I'm willing to learn, blah, blah, blah. He comes out, sees Miguel clean cut going for the same job. He's like, I guess we're going for the same job. And he takes a second. He's like, you know what? And then he adjusts his tie and says, go get him. I'm like, man, that is some...
Like, Dad was really chill. Like that.
That was good, dude.
Those kind of characters don't usually get to live in the movies because they're too fucking nice.
Yeah.
Because they're going for the same job, and it's like, this is my son. And he's like, shit, but it doesn't even cross his mind of like, damn. He takes a second, like, fixes him up, and then, like, it helps him. I'm like, damn, that's powerful. And the one scene that gets me pretty much every time I watch this movie, and I even had, no joke, like about a few tears when I was like watching it back this time, when Lady Bird and Mama were like having their fight, and they're still she's still not talking to her because she did lie, so she's still not talking to her. She drops her off at the airport, and she's like, "You're not gonna come in and see me off?" And she's like, "Well, you can't go into the front anymore anyway." It's like, but no, it's like, Dad will walk you to security. It's like, okay. And then she drives away, and then we live with Laurie Metcalf in the car for a second, and she's mad. And then you see her like, wait a minute, my daughter's leaving. What am I doing? And she tries to hurry up and go around, and these tears are running, and it's too late. And then Dad is just like, she'll be back. We'll see her again. And that shit gets me every time.
Yeah. Her turn in that car.
Oh man, 'cause she's like, oh no,
is incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Oh man, that shit. I had tears in that part. Every time I watch it.
Yeah, no, I was right there.
It was a very powerful scene. Just something I noticed about like different personalities between the three of us. Like, that was a very powerful scene, and I agree with you. But for whatever reason, when Jazz was like, the one scene that gets me, I had tears in my eyes. My mind immediately went to something that would be hilarious. I'm not sure what that would be for this movie. I thought Jazz was going to talk about how he laughed his ass off. Like, I hear tears in my eyes, and my first thought was that he was laughing.
I was crying with laughter.
Yes. I just saw something that I noticed about the way I think. I'm like,
just because you didn't cry at the scene doesn't mean
it is a sad scene. I have moisture here right now. I'm not saying I don't.
I am human. Moisture comes from these eyes.
Well, it's not full on tears right now, but there's water or whatever tears are made of.
And then I got one more. I got one more scene, real quick. Is when she's on her own for the first time, and what's the first thing that happens? She gets drunk, blacks out, and fucking ends up in the hospital. And that's when she realizes, oh shit, this ain't that easy.
Hey,
so it's like the first time on your own, and look what the fuck happened. So yeah.
Dude, sometimes the bar's got, all you can drink beers for $5. And, you wake up the next morning in a hospital. It happens.
The bars have all you can drink beers for $5?
So it was a Friday special thing across the street from the school. It was like they called it happy hour for like 3 or 4 hours. All you can drink beer for $5. After about 13 of those, I went home because I got mad at myself for
This is a real bar, not just some dude's room.
No, it's a real bar. It was called the library.
This has to be illegal.
It was called the library. It was
Putting it right by a college
it was
campus.
across the street.
$5, all the beer you can drink. That is fucked.
This is now. They might have stopped this because this was about 2010. I get, but it was a Friday. It was like a 1 day a week thing that they did this. Anyway,
Florida for you.
I rode the shuttle home and woke up in the hospital because I passed out on the shuttle.
Me that story. You might have told it on WWW.
Whatever, I'm telling it here now because this ain't WWW.
I know, motherfucker. You know what?
Don't bring up that fucking show here.
Fuck you.
20 minutes earlier. So I might have said this. But yeah, so, that is a thing that can happen. I get it, But we all good now. You learn. You learn. My reaction was a bit more panicked than hers because at the time I didn't have health insurance, and I'm like, I'm in a hospital. I'm like, no, you can't. I don't have health insurance. I can't pay for this. And they're like, well, you can't really fight us either.
Oh shit.
I think we can breeze through this one pretty quickly because there's not a whole lot of males in this movie. But on what roles you would play, we pretty much have the two boyfriends. Yeah. We have the dad.
Yeah.
We have the two theater instructors.
Okay.
And we have the brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to do the football coach guy.
That
would be hilarious.
Yeah, I think any one of us could do the football coach. I think any one of us could do either of the theater directors. Really, it's two different ends of the spectrum. But
especially high school theater director.
Yeah, and I know I can't be Timmy Chalamet, but I could probably do Danny's role.
Same.
And then Miguel is just nothing. I mean, who wants to do that? It's just.
Is it ever stated? Is it left ambiguous? I guess it's left ambiguous, but is Miguel adopted or is he from like a different woman or whatever? Because obviously he's got some Hispanic roots.
Yeah. It's left ambiguous. Yeah. I would guess adopted in some way.
Because they say we took Shelly in.
Yeah, they like to take people in. Well, like to take people in is a weird way to put it, but you know what I mean. They took Shelly in. They could have easily done the same with Miguel.
Right. Yeah, so I was just like, because that's one thing I've always kind of wondered is like, it doesn't need to be explicitly stated, but it was something that I was like, is he? Because like I said, you got two white parents and he's, clearly got, Spanish roots. Who would I play if I could play? Oh, yeah, shit. If I'm playing like any of the guys, Timothy Chalamet's character, because it's just like you're brooding and you're like philosophizing about like straight conspiracies is like bullshit. Like it would be the funnest thing because it's like get over yourself, dude. So that would probably be the funnest character to play, just because it's like you got your nose in the air, but you don't even realize it. Or if you realize it, or you don't care if you do realize it. So,
yeah, that's true. Man. That's true.
Government's all conspiracy anyway.
The one thing he did say though was he was like talking about a cell phone. He's like, "Oh, your tracking device." It's like in a few years we'll all have them anyway. Well, he wasn't wrong about that shit.
Yes, and it's real easy to be right when you're 2002 character written in 2017.
Well, no shit, that's the joke.
But yeah, no. So those are the characters. So I guess.
All right.
Final thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, I think I already kind of gave mine. Yeah. Loved it. Really happy we watched it. Like I said, it's probably up there. There might be one or two that I've suggested that could come in my mind. Maybe The Grand Budapest and The Departed compete here. But it's in the list of some of the best of one of the best films we've watched.
I'd be very curious to hear Omari's final thoughts before unless you if you want me to give mine now, I can, or I can go after. But either way, I want to hear what you guys think.
I had started to talk, and you said I'd be very curious.
Oh shit! My bad.
No, it's nothing. I was like, but no, I enjoyed it. It was a great movie. I can see why it is as lauded as it is. Lauded is a good thing, right?
Sure.
Sounds right. You could be wrong as
How about
fuck.
applauded? I know that one's a good thing. So it is applauded as it is and celebrated. It is a great movie. Simultaneously, I can say it isn't something that I would necessarily go back and watch because it isn't in my wheelhouse of like types of movies and stuff. But to sit here and act like I didn't enjoy it or at least get invested in some of the characters would just be false. Like I said, I enjoyed this thing. I too am happy that we've seen it. If we're talking about stuff like The Departed or Grand Budapest, I would probably rewatch those before I rewatch this. But fantastic film.
Final thoughts for me. I mean, like, again, this is my rewatch after I've watched it. Like, I'd already seen it a few times. But the first thing that I thought when I first saw this movie was how movies can transcend like whatever is on surface level. Because when I first saw this shit, I was like, this movie is about a young white girl, and I related to it as an adult black man. And I was just like, and it just shows how, we're all like the same. And like when they say like, thematic elements, like the themes or whatever, like we all feel the same desires and shit. Because I didn't go through exactly the same shit that she went through in this movie, but all of the intent behind everything, I related completely. And I remember I even posted something on Facebook talking about it. And somebody, older than me was like, well, you were in high school and you were trying to find yourself once. So there you go. And I mean, I will relate it to Wanted because I was thinking this, and both movies are very fucking different, but it is a different take on that desire for more. And then there you go. So, I mean, I love this movie, man. And then, I mean, also like her real name isn't Lady Bird, but she gave it to her. And then, I mean, shit, Omari knew me at the time. I was calling myself the J1 and all kind of shit like that. So it was like people giving
the J1.
Too many syllables.
Doesn't work.
It's the same
I'm glad you
syllables.
changed.
Oh, it is the same amount of syllables. I was like, it is though.
It's just.
But no, it's just different types of like inflection.
Well, because you want to hit J, but in the tradition of the phrase, you would go the J1.
That's also. Yeah.
But like I give myself little names over, like I never like demanded people call me those, but I gave myself names or whatever, so it's just like, damn, I even related to that shit.
I didn't really give myself any names in high school.
No, that was beneath you.
Okay, all right. But no, I just great fucking movie. And then, like I said, just the fact that I can relate to a movie that on the surface looks like it wouldn't have shit to do with me, I think is amazing. So.
Take us home, Omari.
All right, well, there you have it. Another great week, another great film. If you want to see more of us, you can find us. First off, well, Super Jazz, you guess, where can people find you?
Don't look for me. No, I'm joking. Please look for me. That was an entire joke. No, if you would like to find me anywhere you stream your music, as I believe it was alluded to a little earlier in the episode, I am a rapper. So you can look me up under Super Jazz.
Super Jazz.
As nature intended. SUPERJAZ. Anywhere you stream music, look for my debut solo album, My Secret Identity. You may have to put in Super Jazz, My Secret Identity, because I'm not so famous yet. Also, you can go ahead and look for and find me on Twitter under the name SuperJazz2, which is SuperJazz number 2. And of course, you can go ahead and find and follow me on Instagram under the name Forever Superjazz, the word forever spelled correctly. And that evil show that me and this guy Omari have on Whatever We Want podcast. Check us out every Wednesday and first Sunday for that matter.
All right, and yeah, like he said, you can find me here. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube, as he mentioned, on the Whatever We Want podcast. I'm also on Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That is Giotavi. Come on in, stop on by. Bill, where can people find you? Or you got anything you want to say to the people? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. Adiosness.
Real quick, before, whenever y'all have me back, the next movie, whenever it is down the line, the next movie, it's going to be some indie BS. So get ready.
Speaking of next movies, we did forget to tell the people
y'all did the same
will
shit.
be watching next week.
Oh, and then is that on me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's on me. Well, then we're going to be seeing Bill figure that out in real time. And it is going to be The Road Warrior.
All right. Sounds awesome.
I said, whenever I'm back, the next movie is going to be some shit that I know y'all haven't seen. And it's going to be some what the fuck is this? So, yeah.
We're taking it back to the 80s with The Road Warrior next week. See us then.
Adios, this.